I'm Andrea Hobby, as Jarrett said. I'm talking about COVID-19 health disparities, and I'll give a short example of me using R and Tableau using COVID-19 vaccination data. And make sure you just follow Black Tides on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, ahobby9, or you can follow my newsletter. And I'll talk more about COVID in there, among other things. All right, so first of all, I'm going to give a COVID-19 update. So I gave a talk last year on COVID-19 health disparities, and then I'm going to give a quick update of what's been happening since the last time I spoke at Black and Data Week. And then also I'm going to discuss how to use the R and Tableau integration. I'm going to use COVID-19 vaccination data to do this. All right, so this is a slide I have from last year, Black and Data Week, but I added on some new data points. Last year with COVID-19, the race data was first available April 13, 2020. And then more recently, in December of 2020, that the vaccinations were given emergency use authorization by the FDA. And some more important data points, I think, as of November 7th, 2021, about 58.4% of the United States population is vaccinated against COVID-19. All right, and this is a chart I got from the data source listed below, but basically, COVID-19 is the second leading cause of disease of death in the United States. This was the last week of October, but I'm sure it's still true today. So once the updated data comes out, I'm sure it'll still be the second leading cause of death in the United States. And here is vaccinations and daily deaths from COVID-19. And you can see the line that denotes when the vaccines were approved, or not approved, but were given emergency use authorization by the FDA, and just how the daily deaths declined for those who got vaccinated and increased, unfortunately, for those who did not have a vaccination. And this is more recent data I got from the CDC tracker for vaccinations. And you can see for African Americans, about 35.3% of us are fully vaccinated as of yesterday. And what else I think is important? I think one of the concerning trends that it's still too early. I just know that usually Black and Latinx children have 2 times the death rate from COVID compared to white children, which I think is a bit concerning. And also, there's just overall disparities in the vaccines still. Let's see. I think most of the gap is attributed to obviously mistrust of research, misinformation, low confidence in the vaccine just because of historical racism in the United States. And however, there is data that shows that vaccine hesitancy has decreased among African Americans. However, there's still a lot of vaccine disparities just because a lot of the vaccines have been distributed to wealthier neighborhoods, and it's just easier to get access to vaccines in wealthier neighborhoods. And like sometimes you have the inability to skip work to receive the vaccine, even if like your employer is supposed to do it. Like it tends to be, it seems like, based on the data I've seen, that for African Americans, there's less able to get off work to go get the vaccine, and which is a problem. So kind of some of the things I wanted to highlight since last year. And this is from a model from the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation. It's out of the University of Washington. And they do a lot of projections that a lot of researchers use for COVID-19. They use the SEIR model, which I'm not going to discuss today because that's too complicated for this today. I'll have to do it for another talk. And basically, the worst case scenario would be this red scenario of everybody stop wearing their mask and stop getting vaccinated and just like went wild. This is what the worst case scenario would be for the winter coming up. The most likely scenario is this purple line right here. Is we basically continue this current policy, so state governments have stayed the same. One of the assumptions for the model is like mobility. If people move around at the same rate, and get vaccinated at the same rate and everything, that they think the daily deaths will be about this for this winter. And this green line would be the best case scenario if like everyone wore a mask all the time, be like 95%, then decrease the amount of deaths. But most likely we'll be around here for the winter. So, oops, I kind of skipped over right there. All right, so I'm gonna talk about the R integration Tableau. So just a short example, and like it's the really rudimentary model. It's not the fancy model like they do at University of Washington. It's just a basic regression. So I'm just going to show how to do that with R using the COVID-19 vaccination data from the CDC. And first of all, if you want to use the integration with R, you can use R or RStudio. I used RStudio. So basically I typed in this information right here to get my RServe running. And if your RServe starts running, it will say starting RServe, and you know you're good to go to the next part of getting things up and running. Then you want to go to Tableau and use the Tableau Analytics extension. And if you go to the help menu in Tableau, you can find the analytics extension there and go to settings and performance. Then click on Manage Analytics Extension Connection. You want to select RServe, and then you want to test the connection. And the connection will work if you got that RServe message from the previous screen that says starting RServe. If you don't see that, it's not going to work. So then you want to test the connection. If it works, you'll get this screen. Successfully completed analytics extension connection. So that means we are connected. And so the next thing you should see, next thing I kind of skipped over how I did the dashboard, but this is basically importing the COVID-19 vaccination data from the CDC and creating a view with it in Tableau. So basically this is the date dimension from the CDC data, and then the completed series information for COVID-19 vaccinations. And then I just made sure to have a group for race, and then I made this legend here so you can see the different races and how many completed vaccinations there have been so far. I think African Americans are somewhere down here. And then I created a calculated date difference calculation. Basically, the min date is the date of the first vaccination in the United States. So I just wanted to create a field so I could have like integer for the date instead of like the date fields, so I could do the regression. And then the date here is just any date that's in the data set. All right, so this is a calculated field I created with the R script. You have to do this to get R. Basically, Tableau calls R based on using this script reel. There's other, there's other functions you can use, but this is the one because I want the output to be a real number. So I use this one, but there's like a script pool, and there's other scripts that you could use, but I'm using this one. And so I created my argument here for my y and my x variable. And here I just fit a linear model, and I put my series completion here and the day since the first COVID vaccination in the United States. That's the variable I'll create on the other screen. So here is what I ended up creating. It's a really super basic model, but I just wanted to kind of play around with the analytics extension in Tableau to see how basically it works. So I created this viz, anything I want to highlight, just African Americans down here. Obviously it was a basic model, so if you want to be more accurate, you definitely need to include more covariates than I did, and maybe choose a different type of model, but just did that just to see how it worked. And you get to see the days are here, and the R script function that I wrote and the calculate field is here, and then make sure I have the filter here for demographic variables so you can see the differences by race. And I think that is about it. So if anybody has questions, let me know.
If anyone has any questions, you can certainly either put them to the chat, or you can yourselves and ask your question. Oh, and to now, obviously not relating to your presentation, I did see one question from Gabriel. Are we able to access to previous talks? So all the current prior and future talks for Black and Data Week are recorded. So we are so those renderings will be listened to onto our YouTube channel in about a few weeks. And I did see that Fevin has raised their hand. What would you like to ask?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, in terms of like the R integration, what is the benefit of sort of like integrating that software with Tableau? Was it strictly so you could do the linear model?
Or I guess any kind of model, because Tableau only does like it'll do like a linear model or it'll do a regression model, but there's just not as much flexibility. You just kind of have to use whatever model, and it's not really clear on some of their models. So they have like clustering algorithms in Tableau, but I think they only have like one type. And then if you just use a lot of different types of models. Basically, you can whatever analysis you want to do in R, you can bring it into Tableau because Tableau doesn't do everything.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions? You can either raise your hand or just unmute yourselves, or you can enter into the chat either way. All right. In the absence of any, Hope has raised their hand. So Hope, would you like to either put yourself on mute or put it into the chat?
Hey there. Thank you so much for taking my question. Andrea, I'm going to be analyzing some COVID data shortly. I've just gotten an IRB approval. So what other statistical packages do you use in your work? Like one of the ones we use a lot is Stata, and I'm learning a little bit of R and Python. What do you recommend for statistical packages for analyzing this kind of data?
I use R. I know some people I work with use SAS. Some people use Python. So I guess I think if you want to use it with Tableau, Python or R are the only options at this point. But you can use whatever you want, but Python and R are only the ones that work with Tableau.
Do you use Tableau the most in terms of visualization for communicating to whoever your end users or customers are?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But I do know some of them like want you to do a chi-square test. Some of them want you to do like Poisson regression. Like you can't do all that in Tableau, so you have to do it in R.
Any other questions? Again, you can either raise your hand or just put yourself off mute, or you can just enter into the chat. Either way. All right.
I guess. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say, Nadia?
It's a very broad question. It was basically like because you skipped the bit where you like obviously wrote out the code. That's kind of the area that I like need a bit of help with. Would you say that like for that, will you be like I mean, I don't know what I'm asking. Just never mind.
I do
Don't
have like
worry
a
about
link
it.
to like a YouTube video
Yeah.
I use to like
Yeah.
figure it
The
out.
question was kind of like, do you have any resources for kind of the actual coding in R aspect of it? So yeah, any resources that you have would be useful. Sorry, that was a really bad question. I kind of let it just come out as I was speaking. But yes, you understand what I mean. Thank you very much.
Do you want like this R questions or like R and Tableau questions?
It was more the R.
Okay.
The integration. I did a bit of research and learning on the integration yesterday. It's more the actual analysis in R that you then took over to Tableau to get the visualizations that you did get.
Okay.
Is what I'd be interested in. So if you do have any links or a copy to the code that you yourself had, like that would be very helpful, like as supplementary. Thank you.
Okay, here's a question. Is there any way to make the non-sensitive / secure portions of your data set available for further studying?
Which, like, do you have a data set that needs to be used? I'm not sure if I understand the question.
I'm coming from someone who also likes to more for teaching purposes, who analyze a lot of health data. The CDC is definitely your should be definitely one of your go-tos, not the go-to when it comes to your health related data. So just as a side note for everyone. Any other questions? Great presentation, and thank you all for being a great audience, and hope you guys have a very good night.